Many Ottoman sultans spent their lives chasing women. In the Ottoman Empire, the path to power was not as difficult as one might think. Any concubine who mastered the art of seducing the sultan could secure her place in the palace. According to Ottoman protocols, once a concubine bore the sultan a son, she was elevated to the status of wife, and eventually, the mother of the future sultan. This position gave her immense influence, allowing her to wield control over the vast Ottoman territories, home to millions of Muslims. The task of rising to power was made even easier by the weakness of many Ottoman sultans. Historical sources reveal that a significant number of the sultans were more interested in women than in governance. They spent much of their time lounging in luxury, seldom leaving their palaces. This indulgent lifestyle allowed concubines to gain the upper hand, as they occupied the sultan's time and affection, positioning themselves and their sons for political dominance. The harem, a secluded section of the palace reserved for the sultan's concubines, became the center of power during the reign of many weak sultans. By 1475, the harem housed over 400 concubines, hailing from various parts of the world. While these women were ostensibly under the control of the sultan, many had their own hidden agendas. Some of them had been sent by foreign powers to serve as spies, using the guise of conversion to Islam and love for the sultan to manipulate court politics. Despite warnings from the Ottoman elite, who recognized the danger of allowing so many foreign women into the inner sanctum of power, the sultans paid little attention. They were consumed by their own desires and neglected the affairs of state. These warnings, often made by the grand viziers and military leaders, went unheeded as sultans expanded the slave markets, further filling the harem with women from across the empire and beyond. The growth of the harem was fueled by the expansion of slave markets, where women from Europe, Asia, and Africa were bought and sold. The Ottoman sultans, indifferent to the suffering this trade caused, continued to amass hundreds of women for their pleasure. These women, placed in the gilded cages of the harem, often found themselves caught in the web of palace intrigue, plotting for the favor of the sultan. To secure power, a concubine's first task was to captivate the sultan. This was not merely an act of love or passion, but a calculated move that required strategic thinking. Once she had won his favor, her next goal was to give birth to a son, securing her position as the mother of a future sultan. This status granted her influence not only over her son but over the empire's political apparatus. While the harem was initially intended to be a place of pleasure for the sultan, it soon became a breeding ground for political manipulation. Many concubines, especially those who rose to the status of sultan's wife or queen mother, valid sultan, wielded real power. In some cases, these women were the ones truly governing the empire, as the sultans themselves remained aloof from state affairs. Once a concubine became valid sultan, she often assumed control over court politics. With the sultan preoccupied by his indulgences, these women had the opportunity to influence state decisions, appointments, and even military campaigns. Some of the most famous examples include powerful women like Nurbanu Sultan and Kosum Sultan, who ruled behind the scenes for decades, manipulating the court and controlling the empire's fate. The harem was not merely a place of beauty and luxury, it was a battlefield. Concubines often engaged in deadly rivalries, plotting against each other to secure their sons' futures and their own political influence. Poisonings, secret alliances, and betrayals were common in the cutthroat environment of the harem, where the stakes were nothing less than control of the Ottoman throne. One of the darkest aspects of the harem's power politics was the practice of fratricide. To secure the throne, it was not uncommon for a newly crowned sultan to execute his brothers, ensuring there were no rivals to his rule. Many concubines, knowing the dangers their sons faced, engaged in ruthless tactics to ensure their survival and dominance. Safiye Sultan, for example, was responsible for orchestrating the death of 18 of Sultan Mehmed III's brothers to secure her son's reign. Historians suggest that many concubines were not only political manipulators but also spies for foreign powers. European, Persian, and Mamluk courts were known to place women within the Ottoman harem to gather intelligence and influence decisions that would benefit their own nations. These women, pretending to be loyal to the Sultan, often worked to undermine the Ottoman Empire from within. Over time, the increasing power of the harem and the declining strength of the sultans contributed to the empire's slow decline. As the harem women became more involved in governance, the empire's leadership weakened. Internal struggles for power, combined with external threats, gradually eroded the once mighty Ottoman Empire. By the time the 19th century arrived, the empire was a shadow of its former self, with the harem's intrigues playing no small part in its downfall. The legacy of the harem is a complex one. While the concubines of the Ottoman Empire were often seen as mere objects of desire, many of them rose to positions of immense power and influence. Their cunning, intelligence, and ruthlessness helped shape the course of Ottoman history, for better or for worse. Today, these women are remembered not just for their beauty, but for their political prowess and their lasting impact on one of the world's greatest empires.